Hello and welcome to Global Methodist Voices Stories from North Georgia, the new podcast here coming out of the Global Methodist Church, the denomination in North Georgia. And we're just excited for hearing stories where God's faithfulness is present in the lives of those who are Global Methodist, who are Global Methodist adjacent, who are involved in scriptural holiness and the spread of that into the world. And so, several years ago, well, I guess is maybe a year from recording, our annual conference entered into a relationship with another annual conference, and that is the Nigerian annual conference. And so today we have with us a guest, Jeff Jernigan. He's been instrumental in how that works. And so, Jeff, welcome to the Global Methodist Voices podcast.
Thanks, Justin. Glad to be here.
All right, get us started. Who are you, and what's kind of your official role, if you will?
I'm a layperson at Macklin Community Church in Powder Springs. We are a church plant that God has just poured blessings on, and so it's just been wonderful here. But we came out of a church where we had a long-standing relationship with Nigeria that started back in 2010. And I was very privileged to get involved in the beginning of that. I have a tent making job as a construction company, but my passion is to see local churches move beyond the walls and move outward. So missions is my heartbeat and where I love to do. I'm just privileged to be a part of it.
Oh, that's wonderful. When you first got into this relationship with Nigeria, did God lay Nigeria specifically on your heart, or was it missions generally to the global church?
We had two things kind of happening. I had just come back from my first general conference in Fort Worth in 2008, and had seen that many of in fact, the vast majority of the evangelical churches that were in our former tribe did not have relationships with any of the UMCs in Africa. And at the same time, our local church had felt a call for a new partnership. We already had partnerships at that time in Plentiful, Venezuela, and Mayaguez, Puerto Rico, and in Hialaba in the Czech Republic. And we discerned a call to reach the unreached people groups. And so we connected with former tribes mission folks and said, is there a place in the world where we reach unreached people groups that existing church conference? And northern Nigeria was the only place at that time that was a majority where we had a church, a conference in a majority Muslim area. So that kind of those two combinations of wanting to get involved from the general conference standpoint of building relationships, and then our local church wanting to reach people of an unreached people group kind of led us to Nigeria. And then we got an invitation from the interim Bishop Kula at the time, because of some conflict that was going on in the church, that they wanted to bring ILI leadership training as kind of a thing to bring, not only teach the 8 core values, help bring the 4 different at that time 3 different annual conferences together. So got to go over there in 2010 for the first time, and it was amazing and life changing.
Wow. So you've been going to Nigeria now for something like 15 years. So
Yes.
this is not, it's new within our denomination, but it's not new on your heart, the Nigerian people um, and the mission that's happening in Nigeria. So, can you give us now a little bit of, we voted last year to send dollars to Nigeria, which is always it's a good thing to do, but at the same time, I think a goal of ours should also be more than dollars, the relationship and things. So, can you talk about kind of uh, what we've done more than dollars so far in work with the Nigerian GMC?
So we've learned kind of the hard lesson in our broader tribe. We one of the former mission leaders used to say that we have built Methodist ruins all over the world because we have built unsustainable hospitals, schools, things that once the missionaries left could not keep going. And so we've learned over time that in order to see real transformation happen, we have to focus very much geographically, and we have to bring a holistic gospel there. In other words, if we go just work on education, which is a huge need, that is great, and we help some people. Most of them end up leaving that village, but we help some people. If we just work on clean water, which is huge, right, and helps folks get more healthy, but we don't bring Jesus, or we don't bring. So it's really a holistic vision of leadership training, education, agriculture, water and sewer, micro businesses. When you bring a holistic gospel and you're willing to stay for the long term, we can actually see real transformation. And so it's, in our former, we would go do these 3-year plans. Well, nothing is going to change in 3 years. It's a generation. You have to invest for a generation to see these things happening. And what's just been so wonderful is to see the fruit. Like you said, this is 15 years, and to see the transformation that's happened in the village that we have been involved in is just a blessing. And so how do we scale that now that it's not just one church? We have 150 churches, and an opportunity in what is the fastest growing country in Africa, and one of them in the world. It'll actually have, by 2050, there'll be more people in Nigeria than anywhere but China and India. Over 200 million already. And where we are is right on the cusp of reaching people that have never heard about Jesus. So we have many tribes, many unreached people groups right there where we are. And so it's a great opportunity for us to work into real mutual partnerships. Now, we've started out, as you said, with what we call a sustainability partnership, helping them move off of the dependency that was with our former folks. Yeah. And so that's where our annual conference, that's where your connectional giving goes to help this 5-year plan to eventually become self-sustaining for the administrative folks side of things. The exciting thing is we've also partnered with a hospital, which is doing amazing work in Jalingo that local churches are helping to support. And I can tell you, I'm leave Thursday. We have a medical team. We've been praying for 10 years that God would send us a medical team, and that finally has happened. And we're leaving Thursday with 2 nurse practitioners, 2 dentists. We have 2 local doctors coming, along with a surgeon, and we're going to be ministering to people who have no access to healthcare, many of them Muslim. So I covet your prayers for our team. We leave Thursday, and we'll start this ministry, this community health evangelism, on Saturday. So appreciate the prayers there, and that just leads into so many other opportunities with the schools. We have 3 senior secondary schools with almost 500 students. We have an orphanage. And you may or may not know, but in a lot of countries outside the U.S., you have to pay to go to school. So if you're a subsistence farmer and you're making $2 a week, it's hard to pay the school fee. So one of the things we've asked individuals to do, would you come alongside and help these families send their kids to a solid Christian school, which is achieving amazing results? All 3 of them: Ethel Johnson, Ron Wilmot, and the junior seminary that's in the Southern Conference. And then beyond that, what we really are praying for is these church to church, church to district partnerships, where we can go and do leadership training, which is one of their biggest ask and needs is leadership training. We have 2 opportunities already in the books for next year. We have a women's history makers ILI leadership training that's going to be in Abuja in middle of January. And then at Watts, West Africa Theological Seminary, we have 86, think about that, 86 students pursuing their ministry degrees from the GMC. And when we were there were 5 of them came up and said, when can y'all come back and teach history makers? And so we have an opportunity to go in July to Lagos, to Watts, to train those 86 seminary students that would then go back and pour into our 4 annual conferences. Micro business, business literacy and financial literacy, huge need. That's where God has gifted many of the people in our church in North Georgia, where you can go and pour into these folks. Clean water ministries, agriculture, poultry is a huge opportunity. If we could get some help, scaling poultry would be life changing. I could go on and on with the different ministry opportunities, and we're just praying that your local church would have a heart to plug in. We just had a local church. Like I said, we're in the North Conference. There's 4 annual conferences, the North, Central, Northeast, and South. And so we have been partnered in the North for a long time at Macklin, but we just had a church that's discerning right now on partnering with the Central Conference. And we are praying that God would bring us someone for the Southern Conference and the Northeast Conference. So lots
Oh,
of
that's wonderful. That's wonderful. Yeah, I'm a bit of a ministry friend and mentor, and he always says that we want to go help these countries that we call developing countries, but we don't actually want to do the hard work of helping them develop. And
right.
so we'll send them, clean water filters, and when the water filter's bad in 6 months, they're just as bad off, if not worse, because their bodies aren't used to now having dirty water anymore. And so, yeah, these initiatives do have to be long term.
Well, and they have to be developmental. Okay, so when we go, so one of the projects we did in the North Conference is, again, not just bring filters for clean water, but put in a pure water factory. So we make they call them sachets, little 500 milliliter bags of water that they sell. So it's sustainable. It makes money, so they can repair the machines, they can keep buying new stuff, and now they have access to clean water. One of the first things we did when we went over there is one of our ministry partners had a big water ministry. We brought petri dishes just to test the water, and I remember the second day looking at that petri dish, and it was lit up with every color of bacteria you could imagine, and that's what they drink every day. So again, huge opportunity. So we have just the sachets, but there's ministries where you can actually, bring water distribution, not just boreholes. I mean, I could go on and on with the
Oh yeah,
opportunities for development.
that's awesome. I think it's really cool. I think one thing I want to point out before we move on is that some denominations, and really it's not just any one particular, it may not be a former tribe thing, but many denominations have this give to a larger body, and then that body will disseminate funds out to different ministry partners and what have you. It's not a bad model. It's just a model that we don't have. And so one of the things that I think is important, even early in this podcast, in case someone turns it off and doesn't finish it, is the local church is going to have to step up in their prayer game, in their giving to these ministries that we see develop faithful gospel leaders. Like, we're going to have to do that individually. There's not a large sum that can be distributed, if you will, to different ministries and initiatives. There's a very streamlined budget at our annual and general conference level. And so churches are going to have to uh, discern for themselves and find these places where God is leading and calling them to support. So
And we're being intentional about that, right? Everything we're doing is from the bottom up. So
right,
we want, instead of creating this mission agency to do mission work that you put money into, and there's no relationship, there's you can't see the mutual benefits of doing that. We are starting backwards, right? So we're going to go find those ministry partners who are best in practice that we can partner with, that may do water ministry or may education or whatever else, but we'll come alongside with them. And then it's the local church that is the engine, right? It's
right,
not some agency. It is the individuals. It's an incarnational change in people, to be the love of God. I mean, to be, we just to be 1 John 3:16, not just John 3:16, is another way to put it. So yes, so the local, and it doesn't matter if you worship 20 people, God's got something for you.
absolutely,
There is so many great ways to connect. We're building the internet capacity where we can just to come alongside and pray once a month with a partner church, or to hear each other's stories. Um, there is so much for us to learn, but this has got to be mutual. We've learned, again, we don't want to go back to the client server. I mean, all the different models that build dependency. We want mutuality. And that's it, because they have a lot to teach us, and God's given us things that we can help them with, and they're all different. But I mean, we know God's economy, we know God's gifts, and we know the body. And so He's put it all in there, and we all have different parts that we are to play. And if somebody's not participating, the body is suffering.
right. No, it's so good, so good. I think the next thing I want to talk about is right after annual conference last year, in our first episode, we talked with Andy Postel and mentioned how, well, it was at the special called conference where he was made uh, the conference superintendent, and he left like later that week to go to Nigeria and see what's happening. And you were on that trip. So can you, just since the GMC's formation, I think one of the things that sticks out to me is, while we may have financial resources, um, I think I saw in the post that I saw, there was a hunger and a faith and a belief in this radically transforming gospel over there that I think we sometimes miss that boldness. And so can you talk a little bit about that, maybe a recent trip, and kind of how you saw, like, you know, the worship being what it was, or uh, anything along those lines? Yeah.
If for many of us who've been had the privilege to go to other countries and to be part of their worship, it ruins you. you I mean, here's a great example. When the offering is giving, it is, people are dancing down the aisle to come and give their gift to the Lord. I mean, it's a celebration. It's not just sitting there passing. I mean, that's just a little taste, right? When we came to the celebration in Jalingo on joining the GMC, some of you may have seen the video. It was, I don't know how many thousands were there. They told us 20,000. We kind of were counting maybe 8,000, but it was just, and there's no hotel rooms, right? They sleep in a chair or on the ground. They bring their food, and they're there for 3 or 4 days. I mean, it's just an amazing time. And again, especially when you're in an area that is persecuted, that has had to, dealing with Boko Haram, dealing with the radicalized Fulani herdsmen, even dealing with some of our former folks, it's different. It's a whole different feel when you are in a place that is being persecuted.
Yeah. I think the pictures were and the videos were wonderful. I think one of the most humbling things is, last year at annual conference, we ordained something like 60 clergy, and there was an ordination. I want to say, was it four or five?
We had 12. So we were on our way to the Central Conference where the conflict happened, and had to divert to just a local church instead of to the seminary where we were supposed to hold our annual conference at Baniam Theological Seminary. And those people were shaken. I mean, they had just come from violence of being attacked, and had basically fled to this village, 30 minutes away, and we're recovering from that, and we divert there to go have annual conference, and it's decided we're gonna proceed with annual conference. And the bishop, both Bishop Jones and Bishop Penna, met with the clergy and with the ordinands and said, "Do y'all want to proceed with ordination after all this?" And they all raised their hand and said yes. So to sit there and watch those 12 men and women give their lives to Christ, knowing what they're facing, what they
Right.
just came from, yeah, man, it's
No,
it's good
it's
stuff.
it was so humbling, right? Because we had a beautiful annual conference. We had a beautiful ordination service in North Georgia in 2024. Norcross was wonderful. They hosted so well; it was beautiful. Um, w- Seeing the pictures of those ordinands in Nigeria kneel in the dirt
Yeah,
as hands were laid on them was a humbling moment of uh man, if it wasn't for God, this wouldn't happen.
no,
And uh I just I was I'm still choked up about it right now. Just the weight of uh being a follower of Jesus outside of what we're comfortable and normal in, it can be so different. And I think there's so much to be gained in seeing what's happening in uh, the GMC in Nigeria, as well as just seeing what's happening in Christian believers in other parts of the world. It's just so exciting. So you're taking the medical team next week, and this will release later. So you may actually be in Nigeria as this release, Jeff.
okay.
And so but what, other than just a medical trip, what are you kind of praying for North Georgia's involvement in Nigeria to happen? And what are you praying for God to do while you're in Nigeria?
So I mean, we're praying, Matthew 9:27 and 28. I mean, the fields are ripe. I mean, just they are ripe for harvest. There are, gosh, 68 unreached people groups in Nigeria. There are Muslims in the village we're in, which is in Gombe State, where we are, is 80%, 90, almost 90% Muslim. But there's four little local governments in the bottom that are majority Christian. So it's like 60, 40, 70, 30 Christian in those areas. So we will have, I mean, there's literally a mosque right across from the church and from the chief's palace. And so we're hearing call to prayers, all during the day. And so what's exciting is we do this community health evangelism is, as the folks come and wait, which they do, they come and sit under a tree and are just waiting to get help because there is no access to any kind of dental or medical care. We have a chance to minister, to pray with them, to talk to them. All of the local pastors will be there with us. It's just a an amazing time to be able to do ministry and to see the fruit of that. 5 years ago, when we had gone, there's a small uh, kind of encampment of Muslims not far from where we are that we've never been able to get into. And when we did this the last time, the leader of that family came, and we were able to minister with him and have a conversation to be able to actually talk about Isa, which we never had a chance to do. So that's just the tip of the iceberg. There's so much more opportunity to engage, and uh, people think it's difficult. It's Africa, and yes, it's long travel, and it's tiring. But we have guest houses now in most places, and the training to be prepared for all of that. So even if God's not calling you to go, I pray He's calling you to not to pray, to give, and to learn. Right, just to learn about. I mean, Bishop Penna is going to be with us for annual conference. After that, we have 3 different times in District 1 in Chatsworth. He's going to be there Sunday night for kind of a meet and greet and just Q&A. Then he's going to be in Covenant in Smyrna on Monday night, and then in Covenant Church in Noonan on Tuesday night. So even if you got to drive an hour, go drive an hour and just be able to sit and learn. Pray that we can get them to visit us. We have had a horrible time getting visas to get them over here. Pray that somehow God would intervene and get visas. We just tried again for the 5th time with 2 of our brothers, and they were denied. They don't even talk to them. They come in and they just decline them. So just pray for some kind of breakthrough on visas so that we can really have mutual, then bring them here to learn from them. Pray for God to break our hearts for what breaks His heart, Lord, for those who are called to this ministry in Nigeria. So again, we're excited about what God has in store, and I think it's just a privilege that we get to. I mean, that's one of the great things about the GMC is we're global. I mean, we are really global. I mean, right. At Beyond These Walls, we just ordained 3 pastors in North Africa, in some of the hardest places in the world. We call it the Oasis Conference. We don't even say where the countries are because of the persecution. One of the pastors from one of the countries that was ordained could not go home because the Muslim assassins had moved in, found out about him. They got his family out of that village while we were in Houston. So when he goes back, he can't even go back to his home. Wow. And so, I mean, God's doing He's moving around the world, and we get to be a part of that. That's what's so exciting.
No, that's good. I had a pastor once, right after 9/11, and the general view around Muslims was very negative in the United States, and he asked the question, in God's economy, are Muslims the enemy or the prize? And he said that as he wept standing at the base of the Twin Towers and all the things that had happened, he said, God loves the Muslims so much that he sent Jesus to die on the cross for them.
Amen.
And the same as he did for me. And so one of the things that's really awesome that maybe we're not, hitting on as much is that a current Muslim is the next Christian convert. Yeah. Right. That God is, if you spend any time on YouTube, there's people talking all over that Jesus is appearing in dreams and visions to Muslims. Yes. He is appearing in real life to people that persecute Christians, very Pauline of them or Sauline of them. So while you are in these territories, like God's not abandoning the hearts and the minds of the Muslims, that they would come to know Jesus as Lord. That's where the growth in Nigeria is going to come from. It's going to come from babies being born and Muslims coming to know who Jesus, Isa, is. Amen. And so I'm excited for that. And that that there's people who understand communities and cultures and relationships, the Nigerians themselves, who, North Georgia has a hand in training up and sending to be the people that reach their Muslim neighbors. And I think it's so cool. So cool. All right, Jeff. Well, you mentioned I need to go way back in our conversation, because you mentioned an organization 2 or 3 times by acronym, and I just want people to know what that acronym ILI.
So one of our missional partners with the Global Methodist Church, and we have 30 something now, is International Leadership Institute, and their leadership training around these 8 core values is one of the kind of common languages that we're hoping that the Global Methodist Church adopts as just fundamental to helping us in our walk. It's a long story, but the research that they did 25 years ago identified 8 core values that leaders who were making a difference for the kingdom had. And they have trained, I think we're coming up to 500,000 people around the world. It's just been an amazing movement with, a very small staff in Carrollton, Georgia that has launched this global movement that's now in 60 countries. And it's a multiplying movement. And so it just takes people like you and me. There's no, the training is very easy to do. The Go training for lay people. It's got some great spiritual training, but it's also got some just great day effectiveness training. So there is things that the layperson can teach, whether it's SMART goals or stewardship, and the stuff the clergy. So we typically have a global team that's some indigenous and from around the world to go and do these training sessions, and eventually we launch to an all indigenous multiplying movement. But there's something really cool to be part of this global teaching group with these students, as we all explore together on this journey of how we can grow in our Christian faith.
Absolutely. Jeff, can you give us maybe one more direct story, something that comes top of mind of where you've seen God at work in Nigeria outside of what you've already shared? I mean, what, maybe in the small, maybe in the big, is there anything else that's jumping out that you think, man, God was at work there?
Well, there's so many things, just the growth. I mean, the progress we've seen in the village that we've worked at in Guandum. 15 years ago, there was no infrastructure, nothing. Now we have an office, secretariat with a pure water factory, a guest house. We have a tractor and all the implements, which just revolutionizes their agriculture, because they only get rain 4 months a year. So they have to grow all their crops in 4 months. And it's all been hand subsistence agriculture. We have a school with 140 students that is where almost half of the graduating class gets into college, which is unheard of in the rural areas. We have a dispensary, a clinic that was an old rock 1920s building and a falling over kind of very small building with 3 rooms in it. Now we have 4 buildings, 8 wards, a maternity delivery room, a dental clinic, a surgical place. To see what's happened in that village is amazing. And even beyond that, when we think about planting churches, so in just the North Conference, there's 17 evangelists. That's what they call a church planter. And so these are lay people that where they have, the gospel has come to their village. God has got a hold of them. They want to go spread the gospel. They go to a 3-day Bible college, and they go out to the next village. And God just, I mean, it's just, it's it's great stuff. And even amidst what's happening with all of the persecution, so, and the challenges in the economy is horrible. When I first went there in 2010, it was $1 was 180 naira. Today, $1 is 1,600 naira.
Right,
Inflation is
right.
crazy. The economy is a mess. They took away the fuel subsidy, so now they can't. I mean, it's just um, we need to pray for their government. We need to. I mean, there's all kind of prayers needed for the country, but yet God keeps moving.
Right. Right. No, I think it's going to be a cool story. I think as more churches and more lay people, more clergy get involved, and get to see more firsthand what's happening. I think the stories of what God's doing, from the small to big, from literally nothing to uh, things that are changing. I mean, clean water changes lives. Uh, Increased food supply where you're not constantly starving changed lives, but local churches forming 3-day gospel training to go out and preach the gospel. I mean, that really is Acts chapter 9 when Paul has his conversion. It's, he's like, he gets baptized, he stays with the apostles for a couple days, and then he starts preaching. I
There
mean,
you go.
that is, it's straight from the New Testament. If anyone's like, they don't have a seminary degree, yeah, neither did Paul, and we're thankful for that. And so this is really cool stuff. And I think, the exposure we have, I really didn't know what was happening until that trip where you guys went, back in February of 2024, and just got to see the pictures. And I'm like, there's something happening here. Like God is, uh, I can just imagine being in church on any one of our Sundays, like this past Sunday, for example. I'm a pastor of a local church here in North Georgia, and we met outside underneath our historic arbor, and it was low 80s, and it kind of rained for like 14 minutes. And people were like, "Are we sure that we want to be this uncomfortable?" And I'm like, "Guys, I'm the hottest person here. Like it's not that uncomfortable." And we're under a roof. Like it's not that bad. And most of them were fine with it. I would give them a hard time, but just think, like, thousands of people came to this convening conference with no hotel reservations and no beds to sleep on and no restaurants to buy food from, and they were excited. And then when persecution came, they didn't run and necessarily hide back at home. They grabbed their stuff, went down the road, and kept worshiping. Like, if only we could glimpse the boldness of the believers. I think that's really cool. The other thing it reminds me of, Jeff, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, but in Luke chapter 14, it says that we need to count the cost of discipleship. No one builds a house without knowing what it's going to take to build the house.
Yep.
And um and so these, our friends, our brothers and sisters in Nigeria, are understanding, they're living every day what it costs to actually be a disciple where persecution happens, and they still do it.
Amen. And the Spirit is amazing. And so again, that the other thing to pray for is there's a series of lawsuits brought by our former folks trying to obtain all the property, and those start coming to fruition in June. So that would be another great prayer point, is just to pray that the rule of law and justice would prevail in these cases.
Yeah, I mean, and we want people to have places to worship. I mean, that's what it comes down to, is that there's a need for set aside places for worship. Here's the other thing, Jeff, I'm confident about. win or lose, these Nigerians are still going to praise Jesus.
Amen.
And so it like again, back to Paul, to live is Christ, to die is gain. You win, you got your building. You don't win, you still got Jesus, and the gospel's going to press forward. I think the faithfulness of the Nigerians has been evident, and their tenacity is evident. And so I pray for provision. I pray that the outcome is one that's beneficial. I'm not that worried about it. I think God's got something so big for them. The buildings that they get may not even matter because they're going to be too big to sit in them anyway. So
Let it be so, Lord. Yeah.
um, so Jeff, we want to be in continued prayer for you and for the team that's going and for the future teams that are going. How can people, you can't just mail a check to Nigeria and hope it gets to these resources. How do people find how they can give to this Nigeria movement directly?
Very, very easy. Go to the North Georgia GMC website, and you can see the tab on the far right says give. And when you click on that, when you scroll to the bottom, you'll see Nigeria Partnership. And there are two buckets to give to the hospital and to give to the schools. And if you feel led to do something else, or do projects or whatever, just let me know. My if you go to missions on that same web, all of my information and email is there. And I would love to talk to you about how your local church or you could get involved on so many different levels. So whatever God's calling you to do, there's a place for you in Nigeria.
Absolutely. So look down in the show notes if you're watching this. Look down in the show notes. We'll have a link directly to the North Georgia GMC website, and that will take you over to giving. Go ahead, and if you're finishing up this right now, take 3 minutes and pray. Pray for the team that's going from here, but also pray for the Nigerian church. Pray for the believers there, that God would continue to work in the ways He has, and pray against the persecution that's coming.
Amen.
It's evident, it's constant, and we're just I'm excited. I love our partnership. I love that our bishop's from Nigeria. I think it's such a cool. It actually makes sense, like that we partnered and he's our bishop. So it's kind of a twofold awesome thing. So we're looking forward to see him at annual conference. And Jeff, thank you for your heart that is chasing after Jesus and being one of the workers in this plentiful harvest. So we're grateful that you would do that.
It's a blessing. Thank you so much for the time, Justin.
Absolutely. And thank you for watching Global Methodist Voices or listening. Be sure to like, subscribe, and follow. God, if you are laying on someone's heart, let them be obedient to following what you're laying on their heart, whether it's a gift, if it's $1.50, who cares? Whatever God is laying on your heart, that you would be obedient to following through with that. If you are a doctor or a nurse practitioner, nurse, surgeon, dentist, and you're watching this going, I could go spend a week or two in Nigeria loving our
Come
neighbors.
on.
Reach out to Jeff and let him know. He would love to probably have you go in a future trip. We are praying for you, Jeff, as you are going to be in Nigeria when this airs. So we're grateful for your heart to go there. And we just hope that you have a wonderful day. We pray that we'll continue to hear the stories of God's faithfulness so that the next generation will know the praiseworthy deeds of the Lord through the Global Methodist from North Georgia and to the other sides of the world. So
Amen.
thank you for watching, and we hope to see you soon. Amen.
Amen.